Hello, Eli.
Hi, just a minute. I need the sound to do something.
Sure.
Okay, I'm okay.
So I'm glad you're with me today. I'm so thankful that you're doing this meeting with me. Um,
Okay, but I don't really follow
yeah,
your.
well, we're gonna work on that, and I
What
want
is the
to.
goal?
Yeah.
What is your goal?
So let me first say, you okay with me publishing this as a meeting, internal meeting for, you know?
Whatever you think is all right for me. I mean, I would do it a little bit different, also much
Oh,
more edited. But this
yeah,
is up to me. I mean, this is my taste, sort of. I don't
yeah.
dictate anything to you.
Well, I mean, this isn't mostly. This is just for the benefit of me picking your brain. So and it's
Okay.
not really for the audience, but it is secondarily for the audience in the sense that people should be able to see these things, learn from it, and give me ideas if they were to watch it. So
Okay.
yeah.
Good.
So
Okay.
so let me try to um address your main thing, which is you don't know what our goal is. Okay. So the flag that I've chosen for the organization is to rid the world of apostasy laws.
Is what again?
To make it so every country in the world does not have laws that like death penalty for leaving your religion.
Is it possible at all? Isn't it their right also to come to something like this if the
Yeah, if
vast
there was a country
majority?
where every single person in the country didn't want the apostasy laws, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't exist anymore in that country.
Yes, but also it could be that the majority in the country want it. So, generally speaking, what are
Yeah,
the boundaries
yeah.
that we
So I think you're going too far ahead.
okay.
So yeah, because you're talking about if this is possible right now. Like we're not even at that stage. We're talking. Just
One is
imagine.
possible. The other one is really a little bit ideological to say where are the boundaries that we take from our own morality, to take not ability but our right to tell other countries
Well, nobody's saying anything
in
about that.
which
You've already jumped far ahead. I think you're taking ideas from previous discussions we've had.
maybe, but I
Yeah.
want to understand a little bit more. My if you want, my own goal is maybe together with you or to a little bit more understand the mindset
Yeah,
of
that would be
certain
that would,
people.
yeah. You could say that's an obstacle. We don't understand their mindset. We would have so and overcoming that obstacle means we now understand their mindset. So that's one of the things. Here's the point I wanted to say. So let me finish this for a second. This is just a goal I've chosen as a big goal, and I recognize that the obstacles to achieving the goal are many, and these are just placeholders, obviously. And but another thing to recognize is even if I had picked a different main goal, like for example, spread women's rights worldwide. I mentioned that one because that's what Ayan Hirsi Ali's organization is doing. Even if we picked a different goal like that one, these obstacles and how to overcome them would be the same or almost the same.
Could be, but first of all, it's not exactly absolutely the same. And then even this question is, if we like to spread women's rights worldwide, not necessarily we will try to force, let us say, certain countries to put it.
Yeah, I don't even know how anything would be forced. This is a nonprofit. This is a bunch of individuals. None of us are involved in a government. So none of this is about government, by the way. If
No,
my
okay,
podcast,
so you don't mean to, at least maybe to some degree, to get government involved in it.
well, I
I
mean,
mean,
I,
because
I
we
still
could
I still think
start.
I still think you're jumping ahead. But if you want
Okay.
to take an example from someone else, Ayin Hirsi Ali, she does talk with lawmakers, but she's not doing it in a way where she's trying to get one government to pressure another government. She's talking directly with the lawmakers in the government she's working with. So she works in the USA. She talks to U.S. congressmen, and then laws get changed. And that's the congressmen that want to talk to her and willingly talking to her. There's no pressure involved there.
Okay.
So that's one way to get governments involved. And it's a peaceful way, and it doesn't involve any fighting between governments.
Okay.
So I just started to do a brain dump. No special order, just started listing obstacles. Here's one I've been talking about a lot on my podcast. A lot of the social media are censoring, and I know people complain this is really government, but censoring ex-Muslim voices. And how to overcome that? It's something like
This is something, the undesired effect is much wider, because you put ex-Muslim as a kind of target, but it's much, much, much wider when social media takes a position.
Yes, that's why I said here we need to work with organizations who are working on fixing social media censoring, not specific to ex-Muslim voices, any voices.
Generally speaking, question is what we expect from the social media, how to behave. Certainly, there are quite a lot of dissatisfaction, to say the least, of where it comes from. But I can say it looks like we need to put some kind of rules against the social media in order not to do certain things that today they open the door for it.
You mean rules imposed by the government?
I think overall, even government throughout the world, because generally speaking, you can call in a social media to murder someone. This has to be done to tell the social media, you take it here kind of responsibility. If you cannot take it, close.
Otherwise, and in the US, at least, we have laws already on the books that help us with this situation. I don't remember which company our government was dealing with, but it was a scenario where if your company is acting as a town hall, then it becomes a scenario where you're acting it partially as what the government does. When it censors, then if this company is a town hall scenario, then it is censoring, and it shouldn't be censoring. And it's the same laws that the government has to deal with. The government can't censor, and neither can this town hall. I don't know too much about it besides knowing that there's organizations working on it, and we got to work with them.
It could be and should be, because this is part of it is really the social media, because we almost don't have any power on social media. So we know in Israel, I'm Israeli, we have certain sensitivities. And in TikTok, it looks like the Chinese government, we don't have a proof, it's going to be allowing a lot of brutal anti-Israeli, but not the other way around, that we try to defend ourselves, and this is many times limited by the social media.
Yeah, and I think the exact same thing is happening with Muslim and ex-Muslim voices on TikTok.
Okay. But these are only examples, please. I bring example to show something, not to make this example something important in itself. It just tries to tell something.
Yeah, that's why I don't put examples here.
Yeah, because
as an example, as a counterexample, there's X. There's a few small ones too that are not censoring.
So also not censoring could be that they open the door to do unspeakable things that we don't want to let it done. Because of this, there need to be regulations on the social media, and they need to be definitely implemented by the overall government in a way that the social media will not be able even to refuse. They will have to conform. They will have to create the means to stop it. Now, of course, everything needs to be put very clearly, verbalized very clearly. This is a legal thing. We do have, even in a very free country, certain legal obligations of what you should not do in this kind of thing. So what you should not ever be able to put on a, let us say, regular newspaper, I assume should be put also to the social media and be really pushed onto it. And we will not accept kind of what the social media saying that they are not able to.
So just the general point here is, I think the main thing that I can do regarding this is just to tap into the existing infrastructure of organizations already working on this problem.
Okay,
So,
good. They need to, and it is wide, and it generally speaking, raising a huge problem that we have. In general, I mean, it's what you are speaking about, but it's much more than that. Is the new technology comes in so fast that the regulatory cannot really even follow. Not to say how to create the means to eventually force the regulation, but even to come up with a regulation. And there is huge amount of things in it. I've seen a lot of talking about AI, not about this kind of thing. It's like something much lower, sort of how to keep your copyright rights, how you keep it. If AI takes it and spread it, or can spread it all over the place. So a question are raised, and the whole situation it is a huge problem that I see. The technology is rising so fast that we human beings are much more slower to see all the ramifications. And some of the ramifications could be are great, but some of the ramifications are very negative. And how can we, in good time, deal with it? So this is a huge problem in which what you are saying is, to a certain degree, part of it. I'm saying to a certain degree because you are also speaking about how really to influence, or at least to get agreement of people, let us say about women's rights, and let us say about limiting certain religions from being too offensive to others who may have a somewhat different idea. All these are extremely important things, but
all interconnected, yeah.
they are interconnected. I'm really trying to be, let us say, pragmatic, and because of this, I'm saying, what do we really trying to achieve that we have a certain chance to achieve if we do it and go all the head with it? And what is eventually the core problem? And quite a lot of the core problem is technology, and the other core problem is really kind of fanatic religions that for influence some people to do things that are terrible.
Well, I think we have a bigger problem than those religions. It's how the rest of us are dealing with them. Because and that's actually this first one is part of it.
Yeah.
You know, this has nothing to do with the religions. Let me go through some of these. So this is bigger and causing the social media problem, I think, partly. We get labeled Islamophobes just for the purpose of getting people to ignore us. You know, I get called an Islamophobe, and then people just assume I don't have valid points because I have that label.
Yes.
I don't know how to combat that kind of propaganda. I think that is something we have to deal with. It started a few
You have
decades
to deal with, and I see a wide ramification of it all the time. And I have to update myself and to think quite a lot. How come certain people get fake facts and create from them, build upon them a whole hypothesis about the world, which is all based on fakes. And certainly you see it quite a lot in the US. I see it in my own country. I really think the religion has something to do with it, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, this is, again, hypothesis that I'm trying to say, because certainly the fact itself is much wider than just religion. I see people, I mean, there are situations, simple situation. Someone is accused by the government, is accused of doing something. And quite a lot of people who don't know anything about the case have a very firm view whether he's guilty or not. How comes that
So, and
are
you're talking about some of these very harsh countries where there's a lot of extremists, right?
Yes, but it happens quite a lot all over the world. Exactly what I'm saying. That if someone influential is accused of something, there will be people who believe he's absolutely innocent, and there will be people who believe he's absolutely guilty without any evidence, and they don't care about evidence. It's just that whether they like this person or dislike this person is the only thing that matters. How can we come to such kind of, to me, so much absurdity? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's move on a little bit. So part of the goals factor in the current state of this organization. So the current state is we don't have the expertise at the level that other nonprofits have who are already performing and have similar goals, like AHA Foundation, are also human.
I don't know a AHA
That
foundation. And
Ayan Hirsi Ali's foundation. AHA stands for her name.
Okay.
And that's the one doing, you know, women's rights. By the way, she mentions in her mission statement talking about apostasy laws, but I think the reason she doesn't work on it much is there's these smaller, lower hanging fruit that she's working on.
Okay.
But you know, I think the same kind of stuff she has to work on to reach her goals is the same kind of stuff our organization needs. So I think we need to be learning from her. So one thing I try to do is talk to her. I became a founding member of her new project on Substack called Reformation, I think. The meeting hasn't happened yet. I don't know what's going on there. I guess I didn't do it right, and she doesn't seem to be really engaged.
Tell me something. If instead of going into something that involves basic values, you will really go with, you like to go with a scientific approach, which for me is using quite a lot of logic, that at least I can, if I claim something, I can explain it logically. I mean, maybe my logic is flawed here and there, and maybe I am using something that I claim exists, but actually it does not. But at least then I can argue with others. Because if you touch basic values, this is extremely sensitive, including something that certainly both of us strongly believe in, full women right, and women can do everything that men can do. But is it something that I can or is able to fully prove? I don't know. Maybe yes, but it's not simple. But first of all, how you create kind of a atmosphere or even rules on how every two people can argue with each other in a way that make a little bit more sense.
Well, one way that's been happening over the centuries, assuming I understand you correctly, is part of what makes our discussions easier is the reality of our technology that we have today that we can compare to 100 years ago or 500 years ago.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
that evidence helps us in these discussions.
To some degree, yes. Evidence is we are talking to each other. We could not have done it 50 years ago, or it would be much, much, much trickier to do with letters, things like this. So, okay, we get much better means. Now we need some kind of setting the rules in which, let us say, even kind of social media, in which I'm coming with certain views, but I'm open to anybody who will come and try to argue with me. But there are certain rules to what kind of arguments can be done. I think Goldwyn tried to do it in something called the categories of legitimate reservations. We spoke about it to a certain degree. He just tried to say that if I disagree with you on something, I need to look on the logic that you have put and try to say this logic is flawed, and it can be flawed only in the 7 means that he wrote, and if he was mistaken, maybe we can expand it to, I don't know, 20. But there will be some kind of a way to say how I can say something, and you are going to say, Eli, you are totally wrong, but not just wrong because you feel this way also, but you can go to the way I built my case and point where do you think I went astray.
I'm having trouble figuring out what point you're trying to make. I was talking about this thing right here. Is that related to this? I was trying to say we need to learn from people who are already doing this stuff successfully.
Okay, maybe yes, maybe not. But again, those are, I assume, coming, first of all, from certain values, which for me means are coming with certain axioms. Question is, how do I, not attack, but say you are wrong with this value?
What are you trying to get at, though? So I'm writing down what you're saying here. What is the point of saying this part? What are we trying to achieve with it?
Trying to establish a better way how to argue in a way that are mainly logical, in a way that people can accept all over the world. This is something that makes sense. I mean, okay, if I'm saying that...
Well, I'm guessing you don't mean a context of like you and me talking. So what is the context you mean? Which two people?
this is what I'm trying to say. I like to create. Suppose there would have been a social media that would build upon discussions, which means I publish that this is my view, and I'm more than ready to discuss it with anyone. But I like to, of course, put my case, why I strongly claim that this is right. Like a woman is absolutely similar to men, and then I might be wrong. There could be some research that will say in a certain thinking we see very different patterns between men and women. Of course, this will not say that women are in any way less than men, but different. And maybe it is true. Actually, I'm not sure. I don't know. It's not anything that I know more about it. But there is a
So
kind of.
are you trying to say to imagine a social media technology that sort of guides good discussion and
Yes. So there is a certain guidance that is relatively objective that can settle because maybe we come and we don't know each other. And so someone needs to sort of facilitate such kind. I mean, this is kind of things that I really like because really, I mean, I think I am pretty moral person and I'm getting hurt on what people look on my country and judge us very severely on what we did in Gaza, in which could be that in Gaza not everything was 100% clean, but I think from the general approach, I don't think we could do it very differently. This is what I think, okay? And I can explain the logic of it. And you come maybe from a very different way, maybe from the Palestinian to say and claim to me very differently. Coming from kind of a claim, let us say, that we have taken the land of the Palestinian and we just came and took it, could be okay. I think I could argue about that as well. The question is, if you are Palestinian and you suffered because of it, and I'm coming from a family of Jews who suffered from where they were, and they came. Now I think there should be a room to quite a lot of arguing. What we did to you, what you did to me, what could have been done differently, and maybe find some better ways to handle this. I think this kind would be so much important to put on the table, even though we may eventually continue to disagree because our axioms disagree. Okay? If I come from a position, I'm not there, but coming from a position that God gave us the land of Israel, and so this is ours by God, okay, it's very clear that you are not going to accept it, but at least this is a point in which we are different. But again, there are so many other points about behavior to each other. And
so I want to explain why axioms don't necessarily cause a problem where we can't agree on something. And I want to give an example. And the general concept comes from Karl Popper. But I want to just give the example real quick. So, there's Muslims who want the death penalty for leaving Islam. Of course, ex-Muslims don't want that. And so, and between these Muslims and these ex-Muslims, we have a disagreement on some axioms, like about God. But then there's a group of Muslims who also disagree with us ex-Muslims on those axioms, but they don't want the death penalty for leaving Islam. So we're still in agreement on a very big thing, like our big goal for this organization, despite our disagreements on some axioms. And here's the point. That means we do have agreement on some other axioms.
I absolutely agree with you that if and when we find a way between two people in a very extreme from each other, maybe also with a lot of grudge against each other, really discussing things, areas of disagreement could be have certain boundaries, and out of the boundaries there could be an agreement, and certain modes of behavior that have to be could be implemented, and they will be so much more peaceful, let us say, than what is happening today. I think this is something that could be established. Not easy at all, and not easy is really how you fight with your emotions. And so what kind of help we need in order to understand that eventually most people could define a common goal to say, at the very least, we like to live our life without you disrupting us and we disrupting you.
Peace.
And if we can agree on it, we can probably agree on how we should live with each other. So this is huge. This is, again, I learned from Goldratt from his dealing with conflicts, but his dealing with conflicts had one important condition, that at least we have a certain goal that we can agree upon. And then we can probably get to some kind of agreement where we keep the goal in place, our common goal, and each one of us still getting, I don't know, their way of life in a good enough way, understanding the world. I think if you improve this kind of communication between people, so what eventually they will both agree and be able to live with each other without having even looking into clash, this I think would be great. It's extremely difficult. And here again, it's a question also of how emotions sometimes make it apart, does not let it go. For instance, I can bring several emotions that are extremely negative to us. What can we do? We all impacted with them. For instance, feeling of revenge. To me, they are all negative, but if someone, I don't know, killed my child, how should I feel?
You want me to answer? I've thought of this before.
Look, what I see, because again, in the public communications, they make it great all the time. So suppose you drove not very carefully, never mind why, I don't know, you drank, and you killed the person. The family of the victim, actually they are the victims. The one who died, but they are the victims. They like the court to punish you.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Much more seriously than I would say if I am objective. Okay, I think you did not do good, so yes, you need to get some kind of punishment and put it on yourself never to do this kind of being so much careless ever again, and so will be others. This I can understand. Revenge, I need to understand how revenge make us very bad judges. Judges. If we judge another person based on something that really hurt us, we try to go to the sky. I can understand it, but I think this is a huge problem that somehow we need to get over it.
Well, one element of this is there's people who are philosophically pro-revenge, and there's people who are philosophically anti-revenge.
I don't see the good or the philosophy or what is the background of a pro-revenge. I see a thing that if you are really careless, not only you should get kind of punishment that first of all should be warn others. Learn the lesson, never do this. Never do this. And punishment is a kind of a mean to force people, uninvolved people, to understand it exists, don't come near. So it should be done. Revenge is something that I dislike, but I have a lot of discussion with my daughter, who is a prosecutor. I mean, this is what she is doing. And I think she understands my claim and still says there is some basic price. Never mind, I mean, maybe nobody will learn anything from it because it's so rare or so, but still. Okay. But pro-revenge, I find very difficult to understand a philosophy, which means I believe something that give me logic and will give me what good things could come from this feeling. I mean, we need acknowledge the feeling, acknowledge it is real.
I noticed you're talking about a feeling. I see it as actions. You can have an angry feeling without committing an action.
I need then to stop myself, and many times the rules and how other people will look at it force me not to take those extreme measures of taking my revenge.
Or my own, more importantly, my own conscience.
My own conscience, I need to recognize that revenge, on one hand, it's natural, on the other hand, it's very damaging, extremely damaging. And you can take it to infinity because you see, I mean, in some
so help
of
me understand though, why did you bring up the revenge thing? It's an obstacle somehow?
It is definitely an obstacle when people who somehow were involved in something, or at least there are people against this. Yes, there is such kind of a thing.
Well, let's get concrete.
I'm trying to look. I'm trying to say, there are certain emotions that are negative emotions. They are bringing us to do things that normally we ourselves believe we should not. And it is not only revenge. Take even something much, much, much simpler like frustration. You are frustrated with yourself because it's some time in which you needed to show something. From whatever reason, you were not able to, and then people don't recognize the clever things that you have, and you are punishing yourself, and you feel bad. And what's good in it? What's good in me taking that yesterday I did something that was so stupid and I punished myself for it? Why? I mean, one thing, I did a mistake, I should learn the lesson. But why should I take it so emotionally?
You should.
that Eli Schragenheim, made a mistake that he should not have made.
You shouldn't.
Okay, I mean, I should learn the lessons that sometimes I might do something like this. I need to learn the lesson and stop myself next time from doing something similar. This is practical. Dwelling into it, going into it, trying, you shoot yourself in the leg. What, do you want to prove that you are a bad person? Okay, so you did something not very nice, you said something not very nice, and someone, like a very good friend of you, was insulted because of it. Okay, don't do it again. Okay, learn the lesson. Okay, this all what you can do. Yes, you can ask, sorry for being too, okay, but that's it. There is no way to go and feel it with myself, and then I bring myself, I think, to a situation in which I'm doing not the good things. This smaller, of course. Revenge is so much bigger, a bigger issue, much bigger issue. Okay, so we need to learn about ourselves. We need to know how to learn, and I think we need, as much as possible, to understand the other person. And this is tough. And it is tough from me when I teach something without any emotion, without any huge agenda. I'm trying, let us say, to tell managers how to understand the behavior of their competitors. Not big deal. But the need is there. And please see, there's some kind of emotion that tells you that your competitor is your enemy. And if you try to understand him, you actually sympathize with him. So don't do it. You know, in my country at the time, Ehud Barak, who was the chief general, he was also the prime minister at one time. One time he said something like this: if I would be born to a Palestinian, I would be part of the Fatah, which means the terrorist group of. And he was attacked from all sides. I'm saying, come on. First of all, because he was a general, good generals are doing it all the time. And it's not because they love the enemies, because they feel that they have to understand the enemies. Where the enemy came from, what is the picture of nature or reality that he sees. This is important. Come on, it's always important to understand the other, whether it's my neighbor, my enemy, or my child. It is important and we should do it, and it does not mean that we necessarily put ourselves and change ourselves because of it. No, we get a better understanding of the other guy. And it is a management need, practically, and it's also a moral need in too many cases. Certainly for a judge. I like to tell you something about myself. I had an aunt. My late aunt, she was the first judge in the Supreme Court of Israel. And when she had at the age of 70 to retire, then she was getting to be the general auditor, that in Israel is very powerful. Actually, she made it powerful. Now, I remember my childhood because my aunt, she was sort of great life. At first, no one, I mean, I understood from my mother that when at the beginning she was not considered at all, but my mother believed in her. She was her sister, and she said that she she will come all the way to the to be the prime judge, how you call it, superior, and she made it. But she, when I was 10 years old, she was telling me stories. All the stories was absolutely real on cases she was facing at the moment. And what she told me about side one and side two. And I tried as a child to understand from the way she pronounced it, what is her mind? But no, she gave it to me as a riddle and I could not read her mind. But I was given kind of a lesson, a great lesson in real life, which was telling me side one claims this and that, and here is the evidence they brought. Side two claims otherwise, and they claim this. And she asked me, tell me, what do you think? As a judge, what should I do?
You were 10 years old getting this practice?
Yes, and another thing, she told me about cases without any law terminology. If she had to, once or twice she had to explain, then she would say, okay, I like you to know that there is this kind of term, and here is the meaning of it. And it is relevant, of course, to this case. This was so much great lessons for me. I mean, she did not give me rules. She always told me about her view. And in one of the famous cases that she was the judge, actually, when she told me she was in view one, eventually she made a very different verdict because she was sort of convinced later.
By something you said?
I don't think so. No,
Oh, okay.
I don't think so. I think, look, I was small. I don't think I really could add anything to her, but I really think still today that she gave me something kind of preparation, if you want, for logical thinking, putting one against the other without prejudice. And now look and see. Analyze the situation, analyze what makes sense and what does not make sense. This was great. When I met Goldratt, he sort of took it to another because he had also some kind of tools on how to do it. She did not tell me how she did it. And by the way, I asked her many times, for a judge, you are eventually making some kind of verdict, which you might be wrong. How you deal with it? And then she told me something like, Eli, what else can someone do? Not getting any verdict, is this better? I really believe in what I do, but yes, there is always a chance that somehow I was wrong. Overall, I think this is the way it should be done. What can I do?
Yes, our courts should follow the scientific approach. That's how I describe it.
As much as possible, yes. Eventually, you also use your instincts. Who is telling
You use
the
instincts
truth
in the
and who not?
scientific approach.
Okay, good. But even in science, you never prove something is right.
Correct.
You can prove something is wrong easily, not easily, but you can. And eventually you are having things in which there is more evidence that they are right than they are wrong. I mean, there is no real evidence that they are wrong. So for the time being, we accept it as right. And this is it. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's the best approximation so far.
Okay. And here I think if we can get dialogues with people that maybe needs to be facilitated in the right way, and this is very difficult.
But you're not talking about social media here, right? You mean, don't you mean more like different scenario, diplomatic meetings with people talking?
Could be, but what I'm saying, if we can spread the practice of this two people discussing something that they disagree upon from the beginning, maybe eventually coming to something or not, I think we would be overall a better society. We can talk.
So I mean, I work on this, but it hasn't been public really. There's a guy who does this thing he calls street epistemology. He takes two people who disagree with each other very heavily, who normally would just shout at each other and scream names like "you're a Nazi" and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And what the middleman does is ask each of them questions that gets them starting to talk to each other, which really they should have been able to do by themselves, but he's the middleman and it's working. And there's a lot of videos online with this. So I think he's doing what you're describing.
Yes.
And he's helping people learn it by watching it happening in these videos.
Yes. And I think this is a right way if we can make it a very spread practice all over the place. I think this could open quite a lot of people more understanding, at least, to the position of the other one. And eventually this will get to what you hope, I believe, eventually to get.
And it could be a very, 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 very long time. Could easily be out, longer than my lifetime.
Could be, and even to put the rules for it, I believe it's very difficult. I tried, and I cannot say I succeeded.
You don't mean the technology, social media rules. You mean the epistemology rules?
Yes, yes. How do I argue with you and we both go after, at least we feel the discussion helped each of us? If at least this, what does it mean helps? Which means now I understand you somewhat better. I disagree with you, but at least I understand a little bit better. And if you come with the same, I think we've gained from the dialogue, and we have gained again the ability to understand even someone else, even if we don't argue with him. But at least it gives us the capability to understand the position of the other side, the mind of the other side, the axioms of the other side.
So I've inadvertently been working on this for 14 years. Good. And I get CLR is an attempt at doing this too. Let me describe it like this. We can't make a formula for describing how to make the truth, but we do know various things about how to do that incorrectly. And that's what CLR is. It's like, hey, we found these, I think the list is 7 right now or something, I don't know. We found these 7 categories of things that people regularly do wrong. And here we've explained how it's wrong. Don't do these anymore. It's a lot more than just those 7. And you really can go back to ancient Greece where they have these, list of what they call fallacies, logical errors. That's all useful too. Another way to say it is, there's fallacious arguments you can make, arguments that use false logic. And there's so many. And yes, everyone should learn all of them. I agree with that. And of course, whatever we figured out so far is not even enough.
Look at the 7 of Goldratt and sometime tell me, what is missing there, and because I tried, I did not find something basic missing from
Oh, well,
7 or 8 actually.
I could tell you a lot that's missing from there. If you want, I'll do that.
Yeah,
um,
okay. I
and I
like
can
to.
show you quotes from my article that are the things that are missing. But when you say, okay, so let me take a step back though. You can think of things like, let's say there's 1,000 incorrect arguments that people use, but of course it's not the same statistics for them. One of, let's say there's a ranking. Most people are using this wrong one, and then second, third, all
By
the way
the
to the bottom.
way, I
Maybe the
will
top.
disagree with you that there are 1,000. Could
There's a
be that
million.
there are 20. It is a finite number and cannot be
I think I know
too
why
deep.
you're saying that too. Yeah.
Because
Because
otherwise we are getting into so much complexity, and I think that science cannot be that complex. In science, the key rules, there are only few.
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. And that's why my document is short, because I was trying to explain all the wrong ways, but again, not all. I was trying to work on the ones that are most common, and that really does cover everything, because I think if you find one that you think isn't in my list, I will show you how it is. It's just a more general form.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
And that's how it gets reduced to 20, and really I bet you those 20 can be reduced to 1 if you
I
explain
don't
it.
think so. I don't think so, because we can deal with more than one, but we cannot deal with hundreds.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, we'll do that. I'll since you're interested in this, and I am too, we'll maybe do another
Send me your
episode.
article. I mean, I will gladly read it because I am interested. Certainly, I'm interested. But generally speaking, yes, I think creating dialogues with people who are not on the same view are really important, and it can bring us near what is your goal here.
So let me say one little piece more about this. So ever since I became an atheist, which is around the same time I started talking online, first time talking online, I quickly found I was trying to have discussions with people, serious truth seeking discussions. Well, I quickly found out, and maybe it took a long time, not really quick, that a lot of the discussions I was having, the other person was not trying to do that. They were just fucking with me. And they make it hard for me to tell that they were only fucking with me. They were not trying to do truth seeking. A lot of the discussions happening online is getting fucked up from this kind of stuff, not stuff
Yes.
like logical arguments.
Quite. And because of this, too many people, they don't use logic too much. And they are more moved by some kind of emotion, so they have some kind of beliefs.
Well, here's my point. In a business meeting or an online discussion on Reddit about Islam, aside from CLR, there's people who are just trying to sabotage and disrupt, and they can get around the CLR rules pretty easily.
Okay. Yes.
And trick people. You get what I mean? Tricking people.
Yes, which means because they are more brilliant than other people, they hide what they really want, but this is not a real discussion.
I agree. And here's my point. I've been developing a method that identifies and finds those people.
Okay.
Who are acting that way. So it's broader than CLR. And I think they're connected. You need both, because I don't think you might get lucky and you're having a meeting.
Speaking not so much about CLR, but about the misuse of this structure to get something different.
Yeah.
So they are trying to do like reduce me Okay, and
Yes.
all right.
Like
So
trying to deflate
their
your ego.
objective is not to really find out
Right.
about something.
Yeah.
Or all right, okay, this we have to understand, and this is an obstacle, like you say, and because of this, we more need like kind of middlemen, and it's not always working. But if we succeed to make it work and people see value in it, then more, let us say, more real discussion will come. And I think this will highlight to some people a little bit better understanding of the other
Yeah,
people.
I
Because
really do
for
want to.
me, it's a common goal. I want to understand other people where today I feel many times I simply don't understand them. Don't understand the motivation behind it, or don't
Yeah.
understand
So
what
so
they want to accomplish.
so continuing on what I was saying about, I was researching how to have good discussions and how to avoid bad actors and bad discussions. Part of what I figured out was um, that sometimes you're dealing with somebody where a portion of what they say is good, useful, productive, but a portion of what they're saying is insults. So then you have to make a choice. Am I going to continue talking to this person and try to keep the good discussion and maybe ignore the insults, or try to get him to stop the insults, or what, or just stop because he's insulting me?
Okay. Because of this, rules of discussion should be that no insult is allowed.
Oh,
So,
yes, that's like the
okay,
first rule
how
Socrates
you
made.
implement it is tricky. I know.
Not only that, but when people are making these insults, oftentimes they don't even know they're doing it, so they don't know they're doing a personal attack.
Because of this, I think some kind of a facilitator has to be at least trying. I'm not saying this is easy.
Oh yeah, I'm just describing the problem so we can solve them.
Of course, there are
Yeah.
problems, but there are, let us say, there are more problems that we may solve faster than what you like to have is to go, I don't know, into Afghanistan and change their view of the Taliban about how they should behave.
Yeah, I think I yes, I agree with that. So can I say 3 more things that I put in this brain dump? And
Of
these are
course.
specific to the current organization, not really to the, a lot of what we were talking about was the goal without factoring in the current state of this organization. So obviously, since I think this goal won't be achieved before I die, I have to figure out how to replace myself. That needs to be
One thing, hoping that several people, I mean, will take it from you or continue somehow. This will be great. So this needs to be somehow considered. How we continue with this after we die.
yeah. And this idea was kind of mainly formed by somebody else, not me, Dr. Leah Zitter, who you've been talking to over email.
Right.
And the idea is to mentor people all over the world to become agents of change, basically, like kind of what I'm doing. Maybe not necessarily as as good as I'm doing it or something, but from this group, we'll eventually have somebody that could replace me in this organization.
Okay, good, but not enough people.
So this problem here is,
If you speak about mentoring, this is already kind of a problem because you need to convince me to be mentored by you.
oh yeah,
And this has personal implications that not, I don't know if I want it, and so many other people, of course.
yeah. I mean, the lowest hanging fruit is we'll do it with the people already flocking to us. And
Okay, but then you don't really mentor them, you discuss things with them, and you leave them the opportunity to learn.
And if we're talking for years, that's what mentoring means.
Probably, yes. But then it's dual mentoring, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's a discussion. Okay, because normal way interpretation of mentoring is the one who really knows and experience mentor others.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. And then this last thing is just, we're tiny now. How do we grow? This kind of solves itself. If I was to achieve getting connected with the other big nonprofits, then naturally I would have a bigger audience. So, and you know, right now I am trying to connect with these kind of people. It's been slow going so far.
Yeah, non-profit could be quite a lot of things, including political, certainly artistic, also a lot of non-profit organization trying to achieve something, but it might not be on the line you are speaking about.
Yeah, and at least this one it is. Although there seems to be a problem now between the two founders, the founder of this one and the founder of my organization. I'll just tell you what it is if you like. She has converted to Christianity, and I clearly say I'm an atheist, and I've talked to her publicly where I talk about what I think are some of the problems, and she sees the problems differently than me because of her Christianity, I think. And so now there's a barrier, I think.
But again, if she became Christian, it's because she accepted certain values, maybe even deeper belief.
You know, I call myself an atheist Christian.
Okay, but at what point this is in clash with what you like to achieve? Because I don't know, why do you care?
But I think she thinks
why do you care if I believe in God?
I
in
don't.
the Jewish God.
I don't.
Okay.
But I think she does.
Why?
Why do I believe she does? Or why does she?
No, she does because she believes in God from Christianity point of view.
Well, I mean, she's made explicit comments about it.
Why bothers you?
Huh?
Because there are certain values there that are in clash with yours.
Well, I don't think there are any, but I think she thinks there are.
So this is kind of discussion you can do.
Yeah.
In which the fact that she is a believer in God in Christianity should not impact. The impact is whether discussing some of the issues with you anything to do with it, and not necessarily at all.
Yeah. Yep. So, okay. So I'm going to work on what we discussed, and eventually I'll email you, and then eventually maybe we have another episode.
Okay, why not? I mean, I love it. I love to discuss things with you. Cool. I don't have others, at least not in these lines.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, that's great then. All right. Good. Well, thank you, Eli, and we'll see you next time.
See you. Bye-bye.